What do you get when two powerhouse egos go head-to-head in the shadows? And the woman stuck between them never saw the storm coming. The off-camera chaos between Martell and Harper is shaking the table, and guess who's dead center? Melody. The secrets, the tension, the jaw-dropping moments you've never seen on screen. It's all here. And no, this saga is nowhere near done. Both men, rich in success, and dripping with personality, have been anything but friendly behind the curtain. Right in the crossfire, Melody, blindsided by this heavyweight man drama, finds herself pulled into a mess she never asked for. Today, we're tearing open the lid on the real tension, the explosive conflicts, and the twists nobody saw coming. From hushed-up fights to public shade. This is the raw, unfiltered scoop you won't get anywhere else. And trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. Now here's where the tea starts boiling over, and trust me, by the end of this video, you'll see exactly what's really going down between Martell, Harper, and Melody. These are names you've heard, but the messy, uncut version of how their worlds collided, almost nobody knows that story. Both men came in hungry, with big dreams and bigger egos, and they wasted no time making noise in their own lanes. Harper, the celebrated actor and best-selling author, built his empire on brains, charm, and a polished public image. Martell, on the other hand, carved out his territory with raw charisma, bold moves, and a take-no-prisoners style in business and entertainment. At first, when their paths crossed in the same high-profile circles, it looked picture-perfect. Polite nods, joint appearances, shout-outs on socials. To the outside world, it was unity. But behind the smiles, that's where the cracks were already starting to form. But under that glossy, picture-perfect surface, the cracks were already spreading. Insiders say the low-key competition and clashing visions started eating away at their so-called friendship. What began as a playful, professional rivalry quietly morphed into a simmering war with power, respect, and who really ran the show being argued behind closed doors. And then, enter Melody, the wild card neither man saw coming. Her deep ties to both made her the unexpected centerpiece in this slow-burning drama. But here's the real twist. This wasn't just career drama anymore. The tension between Martell and Harper started cutting into Melody's life in ways no one predicted. Coming up, we're unpacking the private talks, the whispered confessions, and the moments that flipped the whole story upside down. And trust me, you do not want to miss this. And here's where the plot twists hard. This drama is way messier than it looks. That harmless professional rivalry between Martell and Harper. Yeah, it mutated into a full-on personal feud that blindsided Melody completely. Sure, both men kept up their polished, respectful fronts for the cameras, but behind the curtain, it was anything but peaceful. Sources say the spark came from their polar opposite styles and competing visions. Martell, loud, bold, and unfiltered, had no problem calling out Harper's slow, calculated, intellectual moves. On the other hand, thrived on control and quiet influence, and expected that dominance to be respected in every collab. That oil and water combo brewed misunderstandings and clashes that went way beyond business deals. Caught in the middle, Melody, close friend to both, suddenly found herself smack in the eye of the storm. A trusted confidant to each man and, without meaning to, their unofficial referee, go-between. But trust me, this was not the gig Melody signed up for. The heat cranked up fast as the quiet shade turned into straight-up public tension. One insider swears, the breaking point came at a so-called private networking night, where Martell and Harper both showed up and left the room frozen. What was supposed to be champagne and small talk turned into a verbal slugfest. A moment Melody calls shocking and completely out of nowhere. Friends say that scene exposed just how toxic things had gotten, with sharp words flying and lines drawn in permanent ink. But don't think Melody just stood there. Oh no. She hustled to play peacemaker, meeting each man one-on-one, trying to stitch the rift back together. Problem was, mixed signals and fragile egos turned her efforts into dynamite. Some sources even claim her trying to help made it worse, with both men questioning whose side she was really on. And soon, the cracks started showing in public, little digs in interviews, sly captions on socials, and a vibe you couldn't fake if you tried. From side-eyed interviews to cryptic posts and shifting alliances, the tension was spilling into plain sight. Fans could smell the distance, but hardly anyone grasped the emotional toll it was taking on Melody, stuck juggling loyalties, trust issues, and heartbreak she never saw coming. And just when you thought the mess couldn't possibly get messier, boom, the bombshell dropped. A secret. one Martell and Hill Harper prayed would never see daylight. Melody stumbled on it by pure accident, and the shockwaves it sent through their inner circle were seismic. I'm talking game-changing, relationship balance of power flipping. But hold that thought, because in a moment, I'll spill exactly what it was and why it turned this saga on its head. All I'll say now. This was no petty jab or harmless misunderstanding. No, this was deep, messy, dangerous, the kind of truth they'd both been hiding under lock and key, terrified of what would happen if the public ever got their hands on it. This wasn't just any tea, this was scalding. The secret wove together shady business moves and crossed personal lines, a messy knot of vulnerability and betrayal. Melody, long seen as the safe, neutral middle ground, was suddenly standing dead center in the storm. She hadn't gone digging for it. The truth slipped out in a conversation she overheard or a message that landed in her lap by mistake. No one spilling exactly how, but the impact was instant and brutal. What made it nuclear? It ripped apart the polished public masks of Martell and Hill Harper. Exposing a side fans had never glimpsed one dripping with manipulation, deception, and shattered trust. When Melody laid it all out to both men, Martell reportedly blew up with feelings of betrayal, while Hill fired back in shock and guarded denial. That delicate, uneasy truce they'd been balancing on. Gone in a flash, replaced with an all-war, and the worst part. Melody's halo shattered too. The peacemaker became the target, slammed from both sides and trapped in the blast zone of their egos. Into the crossfire of accusations and mistrust, Melody was drowning under the weight of what she knew. Friends say the isolation was crushing, the backlash relentless, and the pressure almost unbearable. Still, her choice to drag the truth into the light forced everyone to face the ugly realities they'd been dodging for months. It cracked open hard conversations, demanded accountability, and carved scars into relationships that may never fully heal. But here's the kicker: this mess didn't stay contained. Once the whispers escaped, the public and the press pounced, spinning rumors and dissecting every detail, desperate to piece together what really went down. In a moment, we'll get into how Martell and Hill Harper each handled the firestorm, and how Melody's role shifted once the drama went viral. But first, remember, this isn't just gossip. It's a front-row look at the razor-thin line between image and truth in a world where every secret will come out. And when Melody's discovery finally spilled past their inner circle, that quiet, behind-the-scenes tension, it detonated into a full-blown headline-making explosion. Into a full-blown public circus. Social media went nuclear with theories, fan wars broke out, and the blogs feasted on every scrap of gossip, turning a private feud into a headline machine. Martell and Hill Harper were suddenly under a microscope. Every interview picked apart for hidden shade, every post scanned for subliminal shots. The internet split in two, some dragging Martell for betrayal, others rallying behind Hill's polished calls for calm. And poor Melody, the woman who never asked for any of this, was now trending for all the wrong reasons. Overnight, she became both the voice of reason and the villain in heels, depending on who you asked. Under the blinding spotlight, she tried to stay composed, dropping careful statements to cool the fire, but the damage was already scorched in. Behind closed doors, the two men took very different battle plans. Martell clamped down, guarded, and ready for war, while Hill leaned into a quieter, strategic cleanup, surrounding himself with advisors and playing the long game in public. But no matter how much they tried to manage it, the media and fans were merciless. Whispers of secret meetups, backdoor reconciliations, and fresh betrayals spread like wildfire, keeping the blaze alive. Every glance, every post, every slip of the tongue was picked apart under a microscope, and the pressure on all three hit a boiling point. Insiders say that being dragged into the open like this forced a reality check none of them saw coming. They had to face hard truths about their relationships, their motives, and the thin lines they'd crossed. It also exposed just how impossible it is to keep anything private or real, when every second is one viral clip away from blowing up. And yet, in the middle of the chaos, raw humanity slipped through. Melody opened up in interviews about how the drama battered her mental health and personal life. Martell and Hill Harper reflected on hard lessons, growth, forgiveness, and figuring out how to move on. Then came the twist no one expected. Instead of letting the feud destroy them, they began, slowly, cautiously, to heal. Scars remained, sure, but so did the lessons. Up next, we'll break down exactly how they navigated that uneasy truce, the compromises it took, and why this ending hits just as hard as the fight that started it all, as compelling as the chaos that came before it. After months of tabloid headlines, online speculation, and behind-the-scenes tension, Martell, Hill Harper and Melody hit a turning point. The feud that once threatened to blow their relationships, two pieces somehow became the spark for reflection, healing, and believe it or not, growth. But getting there, brutal. For Martell, Mr. Big Personality himself, the whole saga was a wake-up call. In rare unguarded interviews, he admitted, it forced him to face his own flaws, from poor communication to an ego that sometimes ran the show. Away from the cameras, he dug deep, figuring out how to rebuild trust with Hill and Bonnet, maybe even more importantly, with Melody, whose role in this mess was far from minor. Hill Harper, known for his brainy composure and iron grip on control, owned up too. The feud taught him that vulnerability and forgiveness aren't weaknesses, they're survival skills. It made him rethink how he builds relationships and works with others, reminding him that all the power and influence in the world mean nothing without empathy. And Melody, the emotional anchor caught between two stubborn titans. She walked away, with a hard-earned life lesson of her own. Lesson that stuck. Being wedged between two alpha personalities taught Melody where to draw her lines, how to protect her self-respect, and just how messy friendship can get when egos are involved. She admitted that while the whole ordeal was painful, it toughened her up, grounding her and sharpening her sense of power. Eventually, the trio took slow but deliberate steps toward mending fences. Behind closed doors, real talks led to real apologies and honest acknowledgments of the hurt done. Not every scar faded, but there was a shared understanding that respect and a way forward were non-negotiable. It wasn't some fairy tale fix. Old habits crept back in. Misunderstandings bubbled up, and plenty of fans stayed unconvinced. Still, their choice to face the past head-on set a rare example. Even the ugliest feuds can spark growth if met with humility and truth. And beyond just their story, this saga hit home because it peeled back the curtain on the hyper-sure reality of celebrity life, the constant need to protect the image, the tightrope walk between personal bonds and public perception, and the damage secrets and misunderstandings can unleash on everyone caught in the blast zone. If there's one takeaway for fans, it's this. Drama might pull the clicks, but healing takes guts. Trust, fragile as glass, but if you work at it, you can glue it back together. And sometimes, the ugliest fights bring the biggest growth. So, what's your verdict on the Martell vs. Hill Harper showdown? Did Melody's role blindside you like it did the rest of us? Drop your theories in the comments, I'm watching for them. And if this story kept you hooked, smash that like, hit subscribe, and share it with anyone who craves the unfiltered truth behind celebrity chaos. The truth is, this saga was never just gossip. It's a real-life masterclass in how messy things get when star power collides, egos clash, and buried secrets threaten to torch years of trust. It's proof that in the public eye, every word is amplified, every move dissected, and that loyalty will always be stress-tested when competing egos fight for the same spotlight, trying to hold on to something real. But here's the bigger picture: how Martell, Hill Harper, and Melody navigated this mess drops lessons we can all use. It's proof that honesty is power, boundaries are non-negotiable, and forgiveness, even when it feels impossible, might be the only way forward. Their journey shows that growth rarely comes wrapped in comfort. It's born from the bruises of hardship, and healing takes real courage. For those who watched the chaos from the sidelines, let this be a reminder: the headlines are loud, but the human stories underneath are louder. It's a call for empathy, for understanding, for patience, all the things we forget when we're too busy scrolling and judging. So, your turn. Did the Martell vs. Hill Harper drama hit you out of nowhere? And how do you think Melody really handled being stuck in the middle of that storm? Drop your take in the comments, I'm ready to hear it. If this deep dives had you hooked, don't just scroll away, hit that like button. Subscribe for more insider stories. And share this with your friends who live for peeling back the curtain on celebrity drama. Thanks for riding through this one with me. And remember, every story has more than one side, and we're here to dig them all up. Stay tuned, because the next real, raw, and unfiltered scoop is coming right here.